Welcome back, Endgame. It's Chris, and I'm here to bring you my sneaky starts for Week 13. And let's start as we always do at the running back position. Not a lot of sneaky guys this week. Obviously, if Darrell Henderson is out, then Sony Michel becomes a must start. If Miles Sanders is out, Boston Scott becomes a must start. I think Boston Scott's an okay start even if Miles Sanders plays, but I just don't feel like those guys are very sneaky right now. Everybody knows about them. So let's get a little sneakier and go with a guy who was kind of left for dead on waiver wires, and that is Devin Singletary. So last week, Zach Moss was a healthy scratch for that Thanksgiving game, and it looked early on like it was going to be the Matt Breida show, and Devin Singletary still wasn't going to be the guy. But as the game went on, and especially in the second half, Devin Singletary got the bulk of the snaps, got the bulk of the touches, so it does look like he is ahead of Matt Breida. And you look at this matchup against New England and you think, wow, that's a good defense, I should avoid it. And they are a good defense against the pass. They're not that great against the run, to be honest. So I think this is a good spot for Devin Singletary. We know anybody in this offense has touchdown upside. So I think he's a nice flex play here in Week 13 with that touchdown upside. Go look on your waiver wire, see if maybe he was dropped. If he was and you're desperate, plug him in your lineup. I think he gets it done. All right, moving on to wide receiver, Van Jefferson. Kind of on the sneaky bubble right now, right? Did have a nice game last week with 3 catches and a touchdown for 93 yards. But he's still available on a lot of waiver wires. I don't feel like he's a guy people think that they need to play. But he had 9 targets last week. So I think this is the last week he can be considered sneaky because they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, which has got to be the softest pass defense in the entire NFL at the moment. So this is a great spot for Van Jefferson. I know everybody's asking about Odell Beckham. I think he's okay, but I really think Van Jefferson is going to operate as the team's wide receiver too. So if he's still available or if you plucked him off your waiver wire, I think he's a great upside play this week for your wide receiver position. So check him out. Sneaky start in Week 13. All right, let's move on to a guy who looked like he might be exiting the sneaky start territory, and I think is back in the sneaky start territory, and that is Rashad Bateman. Obviously on Sunday night, nobody had a good fantasy game. Lamar Jackson threw 4 interceptions. It's just really hard for your offense to do anything when your quarterback is throwing 4 interceptions. But Bateman did have 4 targets and caught all 4 of his passes. You got to think they're going to bounce back this week playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. This defense is in shambles. They are a mess. For the last 3 weeks, they haven't been able to stop anybody. They haven't been able to tackle anybody. And TJ Watt is in the COVID reserve protocol, so he might not even play here in Week 13. Lamar Jackson certainly going to bounce back this week. He's going to be much better. Probably going to have 2 or 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. So I like Rashad Bateman a ton this week. He's a guy nobody's really thinking about coming off that bad game. I think he's a sneaky start with a ton of upside here in Week 13. Now let's move on to a 49ers wide receiver, and no, not Brandon Ayuk. It's Jauan Jennings. Now, he didn't have a ton of volume in Week 12, only 3 targets, only 2 catches. He did catch a touchdown pass, but there's reason to think he could do even better here in Week 13, mostly because Deebo Samuel unlikely to play. So that is going to open up some targets. Plus, they might not run as much without Deebo Samuel at their RB1 as well. I kid, but kind of not. So Jauan Jennings, definitely a great spot here in this matchup. Should see more targets, should operate as the team's number 2 wide receiver. Now, I know Kittle will probably be the number 2 target guy, but even if he's the number 3 target guy on this offense, that gives him plenty of sneaky value. He's got a ton of upside, so another guy I like as a potential flex start in Week 13. All right, now let's move on to a tight end sneaky start, and I'm going to go with Gerald Everett. Since the team's bye and Russell Wilson has returned, he's had 8, 4, and 9 targets in the last 3 games. It's like Russell Wilson forgot DK Metcalf is on the Seahawks, and he only has eyes for Gerald Everett now. He's getting looks in the red zone, which is always a huge thing for a tight end because we know most tight ends really need a touchdown to have any kind of fantasy value. Gerald Everett still widely available on a ton of waiver wires. Not a guy that's ever ranked inside the top 12, even inside the top 15 tight ends. So if you don't like the tight end you have, or you're struggling at tight end, or your tight end is on a bye, go see if Gerald Everett's out there. Not only do I think he's a sneaky start, I think he's a great start in Week 13. And then for QB, I'm saying Jimmy Garoppolo here in Week 13. Already talked about his wide receiver, Jauan Jennings. Let's go with the quarterback. This is a great matchup against Seattle, despite Taylor Heinicke not necessarily having a huge day against them. I like Jimmy G's chances. He's been really good lately. He's putting up fantasy points. Brandon Ayuk is back involved. He's got George Kittle. That running game is working. This is a great spot for Jimmy G. That Seattle defense, A, gives up a ton of plays, and B, has to be on the field a lot because Seattle is being out-snapped by an 18-snap margin per game, which is almost 3 times more than any other team, meaning their opponents are on the field 18 more plays than they are. So Jimmy G is going to get a lot of snaps, a lot of opportunities, and against this defense, plays will be plentiful. So I think Jimmy G is a great streaming option in Week 13 if you need a quarterback. All right, guys, those are my sneaky starts for Week 13. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.